Hello, James.
Hello.
How exciting!
Glad to see you.
I'm excited to hear what you are up to because I've interviewed you years ago in Colorado, I think.
Yes.
And you're the best-selling author, number one New York Times best-selling author of the Celestine Prophecy. You wrote a Phenomenon and then many, many others afterwards. And I hear you're working on a book. So I was wondering if it's related to the actual situation around the world, what's happening. I mean, tell us how you're living all these changes and how it's affecting you.
Well, it's it's very interesting. The book is about what time it is, and it will go into two different things. One's handling all the corruption that's being revealed, and just not, coming to a place. And what's happening is because of all this uh, really erratic information that we're getting, and lots of these lockdowns. All of this, is stressful for people, but it also prompts people to try to deal with these emotions in a different way, and that's the positive, right? Because the all of the evil out there had to be revealed sooner or later, because only only when we can see it and understand it can we replace it with something better, and that's consciousness. So consciousness is interesting because consciousness now, and everybody's saying this because it's true. Lots of science on it. Consciousness is going up, even as we feel like we're, you know, back in our stressful days, or and but how we're handling the potential of how we can handle it is to move into this consciousness that's emerging. So the same thing is happening on the dark side. Now, if you're on the dark side, it's just corruption at one level, but it's also a kind of lostness that creates this need for more and more power and more money. So this is kind of the earthly lostness. They fend off any idea of spirituality, because that they have to keep the world for them very, very materialistic, and it's all about the money and the power and the reaching for more and more pleasure, and all that's so corrupt, it's unbelievable to the people that have been pursuing consciousness all along. But what's going on, in my view, and I talk about this everywhere, you know, what's going on is a separation between the dark and the light. Now, this is absolutely biblically, it's talked about as the rapture, the moving into spiritual body, that sort of thing. But we all know that it's a consciousness change, and it's a dimensional change. So, and that's why the timeline we stay on is so important. That's what the book is about: how to maintain a timeline. Because if you get too angry about all the corruption and being clamped down and being our freedoms being stolen, if you get too upset about that, then you go into the emotion of hate and agitation. You really are moving into the dark side as soon as that happens. So it's not a war, it's a replacement. So the idea, of course, is, we're all coming to this in our own way, but we have to hold the timeline of a spiritual renaissance on the planet.
You talked about Celestine vision. So what is it? What is it a vision to hold so that we embrace that and live it and discover it as it goes?
Yeah, because what's happening is the dimensions are changing. Even if you're fighting and hating against the corruption, maybe you're not corrupt, but you're going to go, when the split happens, you're going to go on the dark side, because that's where hate takes you and love takes you in the right timeline. So the vision that we have to hold is not just to, with our willpower, profess that we want to stay in this positive space, but to move through a kind of process of clearing. I believe that we know more about that than ever before, so that we get, and it's really givers versus takers, right? So they're the takers, but the problem with those of us that want to go with this light side is that we're unconscious takers. We take energy. And that's a big part of the Celestine Prophecy book that people loved. What are the control dramas, right? We battle with each other unconsciously. So, but I think never has that been more clear. So giving energy to other people, healing your emotions with a connection with love. So there's this, the master emotion is love. Anything other than that is somewhere less than and fearful, fear-based. So in a time like this, especially, it's the training ground, right, for us to stay in love, not condemn anybody. There's a redemptive force in the universe that allows even the darkest of the dark to come over to the light side. And again, there's a lot of different religions that see that a different way, but in terms of consciousness, it is a real reality. So even the worst of the worst can come over to the light side and shake off all that fear and need for power and the whole thing, and come over and become a giver of energy to others. So what I'm describing is a process by which we stay on the light side and contribute to the evolution of consciousness. And again, one of the things that we're doing at CelestineVision.com is we've established a community, but it's a learning community. I mean, it's people that want to really get into their consciousness and optimize being free from the fear and free from the anxiety, free from the anger.
Is there a space of neutrality that we can get to, or does it need to be love? Because it's kind of exciting to be in this space of unknowingness too.
Well, all I know is we want to have our hearts healed.
Yes.
And you can, it's mental when you say, oh, let's be neutral. That's mental. And the heart does all kinds of things, and all of a sudden we're in our fear or in our anger or in our hurts,
Can the heart be neutral?
Well, the thing that makes us neutral is love. And that's an agape love, right? It can't be, it's not romantic love. For all of us out there who love romantic love, it's agape love. It's friend love. It's a love without an object, really, without
no
an
devotion.
intention.
No devotion.
Is that what you mean?
No devotion? Not a love with a devotion?
Devotion, yes. Devotion and you're saying neutrality. Yeah, neutrality. So love is a healing of the heart. That's the only way to do it. You can go to a therapist for 100 years and talk about your hurts, but they'll never go away until you practice the emotion of agape love, right? So this is, everybody's
time of
always,
practice, basically. It's now that everything that we've heard and read in your book, it's now time to, this is happening now. I mean, this is the time of practice.
Without a doubt. And the reason is that our consciousness is high enough so that we can be very much more self-aware of our habits than ever before. So this is it's also, and there's a way to use an Enneagram, and the new book is about how to use the Enneagram intuitive types, because we all have a different channel of intuitive gifts. And that sort of defines how we help people. Some people tune into the hurts that other people have. They can walk in the room and say, "Oh, that person's in their heart's broken," or can pick up on that. Other people have an intuitive stream that's all about creativity. And so this process to heal your heart, what it opens up is this synchronicity toward your highest creativity and a knowledge of your gift. And that's the greatest inspiration in the world. So that's the new measure in my view. The way we deal with this crazy world is we get inspired about doing our part to, and this is a mission. We've been looking for mission for 30 years, right? What is the secret to finding mission? I believe the human race has discovered it. And it starts with being aware of inspiration energy. It's the opposite of depression. It's like go out the door and things are happening. Synchronicity is happening. It's inspiration energy. And what happens is that we get really creative and inspired. And then we also open up this, once we heal our heart, then we're not defending, we're not mad at this person, hurt by this one. We are free to open up our intuitive intelligence. So then we get guidance that puts us in the right place to have this amazing synchronicity. And what happens then is the inspiration energy goes up. Probably that's where we are. That's what time it is in the world. And it's everybody. We're all contributing to this understanding of how to break through to our best self.
You love astrology. Clearly, we can see that in the chart. We're in a new era.
No doubt. I mean, the age of Aquarius is here, but we're not going to feel it if we're on the dark side, fearing for our freedoms. You know what I mean? We have to stay in this timeline of the light and the dimension change that we're all looking for, and this enlightenment period. Now the dark side, to go along with this, they've got to move into this light-filled idea that we're talking about right now. The energy that the people listening can feel is about, that's our birthright. That's really how this dimension is designed. Get into this flow, trying to be helpful. Your karma goes up, it becomes better and better and better, to the extent that you can open up intuitions that are actually protective. So you can go around the trouble that the dark side is having with us, So
it seems sometimes that I'm talking to a lot of people. I live in France and talk to internationally to people, and this is something where we're of course all going through this COVID and with the virus, etc., and the dark energies, as you're saying. But a lot of us are looking also at ancestral work and how some of those darker energies are not just in the collective, but can be also in our family, in our lineage. It could be souls that have not transit. I mean, is that something that you feel is important to do as work also? That's some things are kind of there in our own family. You know what I mean?
If we all have this genetic predisposition to things, and it's a product of our evolution. Our reincarnations. In my view, though, this is something to move past as soon as possible. Now, because if you fixate on that, and that's the only thing you're worried about, changing this, and that becomes mental, right? That becomes mental. We have to move past that, and that means doing all. There are great therapies out there. The good ones are about healing the heart and the resentment and the blame and all the stuff that goes back previous lifetimes with people. So, but they're regression in terms of your longer past, but also there are specific things you can do. holographic kinetics. If people want to search for that. It's a very small therapy, but it's very, very workable because it works quickly. It uses muscle testing to let your past and your knowledge of your past answer questions about what's holding you back. So, but I think the greatest decision we can make in this environment at this time in the world is to make sure we're looking for inspiration and synchronistic happenings. These mysterious coincidences that open doors for us, give us just the information. We go, oh my God, and when that flow goes, then we realize we're guided through this process of finding our greatest and our truest contribution to the world.
Through our gifts, our gifts are opening up too.
Absolutely,
they're amplified.
About the creative, this is like a explosion of creativity that can happen out there, but it's all about moving through a kind of clearing process. And in the community that we've created, it's a learning community. So we deal with the 12. Really, I call it the 12 alignments. I wrote about in the books and the novels. I wrote about this as insight. Okay, well, insight times 10 is an alignment. So you actually change your outlook and your habits to go through life where you're aligned with essentially the design of this positive explosion of consciousness. It's really, planet Earth, you can even say. Planet Earth has an operating system, just like your computer. But if we don't get in alignment, then it takes a while for our greatest creativity to break through. But that's what we want. We want high inspiration. I can go over a couple of these alignments. Of course, an awareness of your inspiration levels, synchronicity that comes along with that, because what keeps our inspiration toward our mission going are these mysterious coincidences. And that means once and for all, we don't have to ever wonder about it again. In this life, we get help. And we get help through mysterious coincidences that help us move forward in life, not just for problems, but we have to expect those, right? So the alignment, the new adjustment of the brain is that watch for these mysterious coincidences. Don't write them off. Don't fail to explore them. So of course, that's the biggest one. We get help in life. Accept the help. That's the deal. And to go forward a little bit, we also have to get centered into our own journey. But what's key, and something the human race has never tried before, in my view, is to get in alignment with the karmic design of this world. And the karmic design of this world is giving, right? So everything revolves around giving. We're unhappy until we move into this space where we realize we've got a gift. There's something we want to do, but we can't figure it out. But a synchronicity will happen to lead us away if we tune in. Now, we have to give. We have to give as much as we get or expect to get. And the problem is the control dramas, our defenses, because they're designed to steal energy from other people. So that's bad karma. The reason to get rid of that kind of stuff, so that you're a giver all the time energetically. You can't be insulted. You can't be deceived. If we're deceived, it's because we set ourselves up to be deceived. The more intuitive we get, and with this consciousness going up, of course, if tuition goes up, we know when we're being lied to. That's why the whole world is in a sort of individualized stress over being locked down and having their freedom taken away. You know, it's just which points to the solution. The solution: don't do it. All you have to do, and I'll mention one little site for everyone: Red Pill University. Okay, .org. Go there and read and look at the testimony of all the scientists that are saying this pandemic is an economic takeover, has nothing to do with the disease. So the way why we believe that is we listen to multinational corporate news that, by their own admission, gets paid off by the pharmaceutical industry, right? Not to be hateful. Be concerned in a way that allows you to move past that. And the cap for that, and what you'll learn, what anybody who really decides to learn about this pandemic, there are no excess deaths. Okay? And what I mean by that is the United States was 200,000 plus have died from COVID, they say. Okay? Well, every year in the United States, almost 2 million people die from ordinary deaths. Most of them very old, either at home or in the nursing homes, right? They're not, and that's an average that's very consistent over years. There's not 200,000 extra deaths. There are no extra deaths. We're the same average of deaths. They just decided to count all these usual deaths, the flu and other diseases, as COVID. And then, you know, that's the answer to everything. It's all a propaganda kind of system. Yeah. And so what I tell people is, if you want the truth, don't ever watch corporate news. And that includes NPR, anything that's established.
So to bring our vibrations higher, even if the planet has higher vibrations, is there things that you recommend?
Meditation, of course. Now, one of the reasons, in my view, that consciousness is going higher is that never before in the history of the world have people been consciously meditating. Now, what happens when you meditate? The usual meditation is a kind of mindfulness meditation where you try to quiet the mind. Now, I believe in what we're doing in our community is focusing, calm your mind every time chatter comes up and who you don't like and what you don't like about yourself, and you know how am I going to pay the bill? All the problems, right, come in and when you start to try to have a calm mind. That's because we're not calming. And now this is working, of course. It's changed. You know, it's all going up. But the faster version is to not just hear chatter in your brain, but the chatter in your heart, right? So there's, I believe the Enneagram theory research has shown that most people are troubled by one of three normal emotions that come from feeling insecure and not spiritually connected, right? So, and those three are anger, fear, anxiety, or hurts that we think other people have done. Somebody somebody broke my heart and I can't get over it, right? It comes in, messes up your attempts at meditation. All of us have one of those as a dominant, but we all, the heart goes through all those from time to time. But the solution is the same. You replace those problem emotions by being in alignment with the master emotion, and that's agape love. As you say, neutral love without an object, love without an expectation. It's really a state of love is what you're looking for. So I believe that's the greatest meditation that we can utilize, but we still have to do it. We have to spend that time, 20 minutes. If you can only do it 5 minutes a day, do it. You can do it walking. You don't have to have your eyes closed the whole time. But what's key is to say, for this 20 minutes, every thought that comes that is not an intuition, in other words, an inspiring thought, should be dropped. You just catch yourself whenever a negative chatter comes in or a problem emotion, and you just move back to love. That's the old thing, still valid. Return to love. Return to love every time. And even if you have to remember, when's the last time I loved? Well, we've all been in love, right? It's the same emotion. We love our children. We love the little puppy. We can remember feeling love well enough to start to come back to that. And that process over time is, in my view, the greatest transformation at the greatest speed of anything we can do. Calm the chatter and calm the problem emotions and replace them with love. What will be replaced in the mind is intuitive guidance. Our birthright, once you get into alignment with it, is that we're supposed to be intuitively guided every moment. And that's also protective, see, because you intuit what not to do, not to go. Or you intuit how something that's going wrong. Just the other day, one of my dogs, I live out on a game preserve, a wildlife preserve, and way out in the woods. So we have to have big dogs that are loud, to keep the bears and the
they're protectors.
Yeah, they're gonna bark. They don't kill anything, but they bark and warn us. So I mentioned that because one of my dogs, and I was working. I was really working, really in the zone, and something started to bother me. And we have an old cabin that's on the lake part of the property, and I decided, something's wrong at the cabin, and I knew it. There were some of my friends were here. I knew they were out in the boat. I could see them. I said, well, they must have left something on the stove, something. So I just jumped up and went over there, and I found one of my dogs in the water, and he was just swimming. And I said, something didn't, he was really just kind of treading water. I realized there was a limb underneath the water, and the limb had gone through his collar, and he was just stuck there.
Oh my God.
So he would have drowned, I think, within minutes of me getting there, if we hadn't been able to get him out. So that's the kind of thing that's intuitive guidance, right? That's our birthright. We should expect those. So, the main point is, though, we can come to wherever we are with whatever problem, emotion, or control drama, or whatever pops up and gets in our way. The process of letting go of that and being intuitively directed, and being a giver. And that's the main point of the karmic alignment. We can look around going, okay, who's going to give me my synchronicity today? Well, that's not enough. We have to be equally saying, who am I going to give a synchronicity to? And the way that happens is that, I'm talking to you and I get an intuition of something to say personally to you, a helpful thing. And all anybody has to do to get that intuition is to ask, okay, what should I say? Here's this person. They're probably going to give me a synchronicity. What do I have for them that would be a synchronicity, a breakthrough moment? Mm. And guess what? You ask that question, you get the answer. Mm. And when you blurt it out, maybe it's something you did wrong and the way you handled it, or a problem you've had and the way you handled whatever. And you just blurt it out in the conversation, right? And what usually happens when you say, everybody does it from time to time, that person will say, I needed to hear that right now. Right now. I'm so glad you told me that. Well, guess what? That's the true culture in the world. The world is designed for that kind of culture. So we're helping and getting help. That's when mankind will become enlightened, more spiritually oriented. We can't just say we're doing it. We're giving it the good try, stay on the light side, get clear, I mean,
but we're a miracle.
Out loud is that it's the human race this has come from the, almost 100 years of debate within the human potential movement, scientists, mystics, religious discoverers. That's been since Carl Jung parted from Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud had a very materialistic psychology, right? Crazy, all about sexual repression. Carl Jung said, no, it's not about that. It's about the spirit and the way we're designed to evolve and move into our mission in the world, so the world can evolve as fast as possible. And so from that's 100 years ago. It's amazing that there's been so much discovery about how really to reach our human potential, and I think this is the perfect climate for people to go there.
Yeah, and it does feel that we are already, just being alive, we are a miracle, and we can fully receive. I mean, it feels like this world is so abundant. I remember when I interviewed you back, and I was on the Juicy Living tour, supported by donations, and I spread all these videos because I had to do it for free. Yes. It was a calling, giving, and I received, James, so much, like so much in return, in so many different ways. I'm convinced that life is abundant, and we're all tremendously abundant, and that's why giving, not in a linear way, not thinking that we're going to be receiving it, but it's just it comes back in so many ways, as a creativity, to me that's abundant. To me, we're a miracle abundant. We are part of that design.
Yes. And I hope everybody listening will get into a hothouse, start a community, join a community, because it takes a community. Because everybody's then talking about the same, what we've been just talking about. And that creates a hothouse effect where, it's like going to a good conference where you've got all these speakers and you got all these potential friends in the audience. Too bad, we've lost that. That was a seizure of one of our rights. We can't have gatherings anymore. It's part of the thought. We can't see each other's expressions anymore, right? Do the research. They're calling this a coronavirus, right? The common cold is a coronavirus. All the majority of the flus are coronaviruses. And what they've known for decades is it's aerosol, which means it goes right through mass. This is a stealing of our expression, is what this is. So but again, don't get so mad you hate about what's happening to us. Just get together in larger and larger groups. This is a small organized mafia-like system that has decided they better this is their last chance to take over completely, and it's not working.
So when can we expect your book, James? When can we be inspired? Is end of the year? We're in 2021. This video can be online many years later, but
well, yeah, it'll be at least November, maybe December of 21 that we hope to get this book out.
In France too?
I'm sorry?
In French as well?
Yeah.
Possibly
very quickly, if not simultaneously.
Super. And maybe a movie, because we loved your first movie.
Love for it to be a movie.
Yeah.
In fact, it's kind of written for a movie because
Super.
so many millennials and people in general, they'd like to see it shown, and which is why I like to write in stories and in plot novels, because people like to see examples of what you're talking about.
Especially with the energy field. Yeah.
Music does that great,
Yes.
But it's again, the real what time it is in the world is that anybody can open up to consciousness fully now. We know how to get aligned with the operating system of this dimension. It's not a war against the dark side. It's making the light side so great and so energized with inspiration that nobody would want to stay on the dark side with all that going on, right? So, and some will. The hater, the dark side, and everybody who hates them, they're going to separate, because that is something that seers have seen forever. Even political entities that claim to see into the future see it. It's just going to happen, and this is the rise of it in the worst possible clamp down situation, right? But just the irony of it, it's forcing us to choose sides. Most fun is on the light side. Being a giver, not a taker. Because what you give, what you get, the karma of that is, if you're a giver, you draw more givers into your life, more people delivering synchronicities right on time. So your creative life goes to wild, If you're a taker, you draw takers into your life, which is why the dark side is so defensive and quite violent. It's because they're fighting off their karma all the time. Oh, that's no fun, No.
There's definitely a juicier perspective.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this delicious moment spent with you, and all this information is now out, and thank you to all beautiful co-creators out there sharing this video too, because that's important to deliver such a message right now, thanks to the internet too, that we can go wild and not have to wait anymore on huge medias. Thank you so much, James.
That's the way to go. Get off of network news, especially.
Yeah. And you've got the Celestine community that is out there too, that you can check out on your website. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.